Welcome to the Trauma Informed Lens podcast. I'm your host, Matt Bennett. Each episode we talk about the research and practical aspects of the trauma informed movement. This podcast is not designed to replace mental health services. If you feel uncomfortable or triggered by our discussion, please consider seeking your own trauma treatment. In no way is seeking treatment an admission of weakness. It is a chance to build resiliency and experience post-traumatic growth. You can find show notes, resources, and more at traumainformedlens.org. Welcome, friends, to the Trauma Informed Lens podcast. I am back with a return guest, and we had such a great conversation, me and Dr. Andrew Hahn, last time about his work with life-centered therapy. That it took us, I think, about maybe 5 minutes after the podcast to say, hey, let's get something on the books to talk more. So this is a first for the podcast. We're going to do a little bit of a live demonstration. I know I had a lot of great conversations with people, Dr. Hahn, after our last show where, like I said, we were talking, like, I feel like, you know, if you got Pandora's box, we just cracked it a little bit. And I just remember there was like so many other topics that I would just love to talk with you. So my hope is that to really look at this as me as a little bit of the person who's going to step into sort of the client role, so to speak, will give people a greater understanding of your work, and also hopefully open up for future conversations for us to have too. So just in case people may not have listened to the first episode, which I encourage everybody to do, maybe just give a quick introduction of yourself, life-centered therapy, and basically that's me turning it over to you to say, hey, my friend, you are in control.
Well, thank you, Matthew. I appreciate that. And I loved our last time too. And hopefully we will have a chance to talk more. I'll just give about a 5 to 10 minute introduction to myself and the work that we do. So my name is Andy Hahn. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I developed a way of doing healing work with trauma with a lot of help from ancestors and help from a lot of colleagues along the way. But we have our own way of doing it. We call it life-centered therapy, and I've been training people in it now for, we called it guided self-healing in the beginning, but for 25 years. And it's very simple. So I'm going to give you the basic premises, because the basic premises are very simple. Why do people go to therapy or to healing? Only one reason, which is there's something that couldn't be handled and integrated. So I would say trauma and suffering are exactly the same thing. When you can handle and integrate everything, you never suffer. You may have pain, you don't suffer, because you can say yes to everything. So that's it. So what is therapy? Therapy, it's very simple to say what therapy is then. It's to master what couldn't be handled and integrated. Because when you can do that, you're free. So basically what I'm inviting people into is freedom. Freedom to really be all of who they are. And it's also easy to say how you do this, which is whenever there's something that can't be handled and integrated, in that moment, a sensation is born. Just like Matthew was born in a moment, the sensation is born in the moment. And it's born in the moment that something couldn't be handled and integrated. So we could say who you truly are is a virtually infinite flow of energy. But when something can't be handled and integrated, it goes from a virtually infinite flow of energy to matter, to denseness, which we can then experience as that sensation. And what it wants to do is go back into its pure form, which is a verb. It's free-flowing energy. So what I'm going to invite you to do, the way you master something, is you choose to experience the thing that couldn't be handled before. So when you choose to bring all your awareness to the sensation, and focus on it so much like you become the sensation, you move from being identified with it and playing it out unconsciously over and over and over again to being the one who witnesses it. So it's sort of like combining a kind of mindfulness or holding an aspect of being with somatics. So we're going to marry mindfulness and somatics in a way, but the key then is whatever happens then is no longer you being regressed. because what you're really doing is you're choosing to experience something that's here right now. And by choosing it, you choose to identify with the witness. So even if something horrific came up from when Matthew was 2 years old, Matthew would be choosing to experience it and then may live it kinesthetically, or may see it like a movie, or may know what it is like he's reading a novel. But nonetheless, no matter what happens, he stays identified over here if he has any witness function whatsoever. And, you know, the only people that I have to be careful with, if you have psychosis and DID, I have to take a few more precautions. But other than that, you can't be re-traumatized because you're not being regressed. You're just staying where you are, okay? So that's the basic idea. Then we need to be able to do three things. So you're going to come with something that I'm going to ask you one question, which is, Matthew, if you could have anything you desire, anything, even if you weren't sure it was possible, what would you intend to get from this time so you got exactly it? And then I'm just going to say, you can say one thing, you can say three things, whatever you want. Now, the first thing I have to do is find out if any of the things that you say are your highest intention, or if they are symptoms of something deeper. Okay. And if they're symptoms of something deeper, we'll have to work on the deeper thing, because if you work on the manifest symptom, you won't get as good a result and it will come back. So that's the first thing I have to find out, is if there's something deeper. The second thing we have to find out is where it originated, because everything after where it originates is just a reliving of an echo of the original situation. So if you really want to transform the whole line, past, present, and future, and for all bodies and all dimensions, you have to find the moment that this crystallized in the hologram we call Matthew, because everything after that is just going to be a trance that's being relived. So it doesn't have the same power, and we don't have the same leverage. And the third thing we have to find out is, whoever it is that's traumatized, do they need something other than just sharing their story in a high vibrational field? Because as soon as you choose to become witness, it's like you're aligning with the divine. But sometimes they say, that's nice, but we also need to tap. Or that's nice, and we also need to do EMDR. Yeah. Or that's nice, but they're going to be the one that tells us. We're not going to tell them. So if they say we need something other than awareness while you hold and witness me, we'll ask them what the very best key is that would unlock that trauma. And the more keys you have, the more choices you have. You have one key, you have a hammer, you can always use it as a screwdriver. It will work, but it's just not quite as elegant. So instead of my knowing what's best for whoever that is, they're going to know, and it's going to be revealed through you. And that's it. Three things: what the true intention is, where it originated, the point of origin, and does that being need anything other than just sharing their story, which is by far the most powerful practice you can do. Yeah. Is do that kind of witnessing while you focus on the discomfort and just get actively receptive. So that is my whole story. Well, that's not my whole story, but that's enough of my story.
That was pretty short and concise. Well done.
So now we're going to see what we're going to do. And the beauty and terror of doing live demonstrations is you don't have a clue about what the heck is going to happen. All right. But I want to just thank you again, because when you do this work, it's, I mean, you know, if you're in my office, you're really doing it for yourself, but you're also giving everybody a gift. And, you know, that really is an act of grace. So I want to acknowledge that. And so then, now that we've had this little conversation, which hopefully we've taken in not just in our heads, but in our hearts and our bodies, we're going to shift. And the way I want to invite us to do that is, I really want to invite us just for a second, both of us, to just pause for a second and shift our attention from up and out to in and down. If you want, you can close your eyes. And I just want to invite you, as you do that, to breathe. If you want to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, all the way down to your diaphragm, that's a great thing. And as you do that, you can just feel your body. You can feel it against the chair. You can feel your feet on the ground. And just so it's like you're really centered and grounded and rooted. And then as you're breathing in, it's like breathing in life force. And life force also is our deepest knowing. So even if you thought you knew what you wanted to work on, what I want to invite you to do is just align a little bit more with life force, and then just get actively receptive, like to whatever is most important right now, even if you weren't even aware of it until a few seconds ago. And then if you move up a little bit to the deep heart center, it's like you can tune in to the heart which is when you're really aligned with life and you're aligned with a deeper heart, which is far more than the ego. It's like you're just sort of tuning into the part of you that just says, what is it that I truly desire? What do we truly desire to get from this time? Even if I weren't sure it was possible, if I could truly get what I was intending when I'm aligned with this deeper heart, what would be the very best use of this time, this sort of sacred time, so we could say, yes, I got exactly what I was looking for. And that's all I want you to tell me. And I obviously know very little about you. If you were my client, I'd know a little more, but I don't. So we'll just do this from my side blindly. And all I want you to do is tune in and then say, what would you, if you could have anything you want from our time, what would you really intend to get? And it could be one thing or three things. You just tell me, and I'm just going to write it down. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I would love to sleep better. I do a lot of great sleep hygiene, but I've always had trouble sleeping. And right now it's pretty hard to get a good night's sleep.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So I want to give you 1 second. That may be it, but just check in again while you're here right now. And if there's anything else you want to ask for, go for it. And if there's nothing, that's great too. But this is your time.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's things around that, like anxiety and shutting off the mind, but I think it more manifests when I lay my head down to go to sleep. So, yeah.
Right. Now, let me tell you what I'm going to do. Obviously, if you knew why you couldn't sleep and what to do about it, we wouldn't be having this session. So I can't ask you. So I'm going to use a process that we hope is going to access your deepest wisdom, right? What we call chi, or your life force, or the part of you that just knows what's true, or the part of you that, like I gave the example last time, if a car rolls over your toddler, you pick up a 2,000-pound car, and how do you know you can do it? You just say, I just knew. It's a felt sense. So we want to access that felt sense. And the way we do that is we ask the body to be a means of communication for it. Just like if I said, Matthew, what's your name? And you say, my name is Matthew. It's not really your mouth that's answering the question. Your mouth is like a mouthpiece or a means of communication. And we're going to ask the body to be a means of communication that aligns your conscious wisdom, unconscious wisdom, and what we might call chi, or the wisdom and energy that animates us in our deepest knowing. Now, the only problem, muscle testing, usually if I'm with you live, I would be having you hold out your arm and I would press on your arm. And for virtually everybody, if your arm stays strong, even if I sat on it, it may fatigue, the answer would be yes. And if I pressed lightly and used all your willpower and your arm didn't stay up, the answer would be no. There's only one problem with that, which is I can't reach through the computer to Colorado from Boston, so that's a little tricky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be a surrogate for you. And if your audience wonders how I could muscle test seemingly myself for you, I will give you a very brief, strange explanation, because I think that may be useful to people. And the way to think about this is cells and bodies or holograms, because I think cells are holographic. So let's think about this for 1 second so it will make a little sense, even if it's a little bit of a stretch. If we think about it, right, there are 3 trillion cells, human cells in our body about, right? A lot of cells. And theoretically, if you looked at every one of them, you would never find 2 that were exactly alike. But underneath it, in the template or the blueprint, they have to be exactly alike, because theoretically, if you had enough information, you could take one cell and clone the whole body simultaneously. So it has this funny kind of paradox of being every cell is different, but underneath it, every cell is the same. So what we then know is, let's say we have these 2 cells, this one over here, this tiny, tiny cell, and this one over here. And this one says, you know, I didn't even know that part of the universe existed because I thought there was just empty space, but we have this very strong telescope now. We know 30 million light years away, there's this cell. But we would know, really, that they are both right now the same, and that everything that happens here is simultaneously happening here. That's why things can move, quote unquote, faster than the speed of light, because they're not moving. They're all happening in consciousness simultaneously. So what I'm going to do is, if I can focus on the template, which is just a practice, enough, you can intentionally bring your attention anywhere in the whole universe, and you are it on one level. Because in the template, all the information of everything that has ever happened, is happening, and theoretically could happen is right there, right now. And so if I tune in enough to you, when I start to muscle test, I could say, my name is Matthew, and it will say yes. And I'll say, my name is Andrew, and it will say no, because right now I'm so focused on you, it's like I become you. Just like later in our session, I'm going to invite you to so focus on a body sensation that you're going to stop being Matthew and start being someone whose name is tight throat. And it's really the same idea. How could Matthew become tight throat? It's because Matthew focuses so much on the template that he brings all his awareness there so much that he's no longer Matthew. His new name is tight throat. And it's the same idea when I'm focusing on Matthew. It's the same basic idea. And that's how it works, okay? So now we can talk about that more, but at least it's like, okay?
I think quantum non-locality probably should be its own podcast.
Well, if you ever want to have a wonderful conversation about what is really postmodern quantum non-locality, right?
Yeah. Like I said, we will have you back for that one. So
it'll be a pleasure. All right. Now, what I want to invite us back again to do is shift, because I want to really give you an opportunity to really have this. And what's going to happen is I'm going to start asking questions. You and I are going to be a team, and we're going to work whatever comes through you theoretically. And if you want to ask anything, you can ask it too. But I spent my life sort of figuring out very quickly how we can do a diagnostic and get you the best result possible, knowing that your sleep problem may be many layers, right? So sometimes it's like you have to do an archaeological dig, and sometimes it's one layer, and then you have like magical sleep. Your sleep issues just go away, or you don't care anymore. At which point, you're just saying, well, I could be a little bit more awake, but I have no anxiety. It's not a big deal. All right, so that's where we are. So here's how it's going to look. And there are a lot of ways to muscle test yourself. I like you being able to, people can do it like this, give me a yes, give me a no. They use their fingers. What I'm going to do, what you'll see is my body just starts to move by itself like a pendulum. And then I can write, which is very nice, because I want to take down exactly what you say, because you may say something that needs more work. And so I want an exact record of what you say. And so that's why I don't do this, because then I can't do that. Okay.
Huh. Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. So we're just going to be together. I'm going to start asking questions. I will explain all the questions because, you have to know what they mean, and so does the audience. So I'll explain everything I'm asking. And if you get very quiet, I may start repeating what you say, because it's very important that they listen, but sometimes people get very quiet, and I want to make sure they hear, but I'm not going to ask you to speak louder, because you're just doing your process, okay?
I'll put the microphone just a little bit closer there. So yeah.
Given who you are, my guess is you won't get that quiet.
I don't think so.
You might end up being someone who's a deaf mute who can barely speak. So then it comes up.
If you do that, my wife would love to have a conversation on how you did that. So,
well, we'll talk about that. Yeah. Here we go. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. So I'm going to say, show us a yes, and my body just moves forward. Show us a no, it just goes back, okay? So if I say now, my name is Matthew, it goes forward. If I say my name is Andrew, it goes backwards. And I'm not moving my body, it just moves, okay? So we're going to find out first if we're ready. So the first question we ask is, are we fully in healing presence? And it says yes. And healing presence is the aspect of soul that really holds us for healing, that helps us become whole. Are we simply balanced? It says yes to that too. And that means our bodies are ready to do the work. We're hydrated enough. We have enough energy. We're aligned enough left, right, a whole lot of things. It says we're set to do that. And the last question we're going to say is, are we fully checked in? And it says yes to that also. And that just means you've said everything you need to say for yourself and that I need to know, so I can be of use in this healing work for you or for the collective, because, there are a lot of people right now that aren't sleeping, as you know. So it may be that it isn't so personal, but we'll find out, because of course you hold personal Matthew, but you also hold many different bandings that go from personal Matthew to Matthew cells to, everybody right now who's feeling anxious. And so we'll see, or even the earth that's probably feeling very anxious and not sleeping a lot either. So we'll find out. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to find out how to proceed. I'm going to see if you know how to proceed because you may know something better than me. So we always start, you're the expert unless you don't know. So we're going to say the one we call Matthew, that's you in this case. Do you know the best way to proceed? And we ask you, and it says no. So I, as Andy, am going to find the best way to proceed. All right, so because I'm muscle testing Matthew, but I'm still Andy who's holding the space, if that makes sense, right? So are we going to do what I would call a standard balance, or we're going to do healing work and what I would call a standard balance? Is there anything else to do? A standard balance just means something's out of balance. Well, you already know something's out of balance because you want to be able to sleep restfully through the night and you're not. So out of balance just means there's something that couldn't be handled and integrated. There are other things that might say, I have to teach you lessons about how to sleep. And that would be a different thing than something was coming up that was really a trauma. But this is a trauma. And I'll find out, is it anything other than that? So it's nothing other than that. So you have a highest intention, that's what to do. And your highest intention is it any sum or all of what you said. And it said, it's not what you said. So it said the most important thing for us to work on is not sleeping better. Okay? There's something more important. Now I'm going to ask, because it's a free will world, I'm going to ask if you can work directly on that anyway, okay? So even though the most important thing for you to work on is not sleeping better, can we choose to work on that directly nonetheless? And it says no. And there's only one reason for that, which is you can't work on it directly because it's part of some deeper intention. So you're seeing the manifestation of something, but you're not seeing what the problem is, one of the symptoms of which is that something is blocking you from sleeping, okay?
Yep.
So it will give you a benefit around sleeping, but it's also going to give you a benefit around other things that you haven't said yet. And it may not entirely do something for your sleeping because we may have to work on that again, but we know that it will have something that will help you with sleeping because it says we can't work directly on sleeping. So we're going to at least do something that will create the possibility, if nothing else, for you to sleep better, okay?
Great.
Okay, so now we have to find out what it is. So the next thing we're going to do is see if you can find it. So we say the one we call Matthew over there, can you find your highest intention? And we ask you, and it says you can't. So right now, sitting there as client, you don't have a name for what this is. So that probably means I have to find it. So am I going to find it? Yes. Do I find it intuitively? No. All right. So we're looking, let's see what we're going to find out. Are we looking for what I would call a pattern? Yes. Are we looking for one made up of one? Are we looking for one made up of more than one? A pattern is a universal theme. I'm going to be more psychoeducational with you than I normally would.
Great.
Like it's like betrayal would be a pattern. Like it's a universal theme. There's stories of betrayal or not being able to let go or neglect, or something took you over and you don't run your own life anymore, or you don't sleep because it's a protection, because if you fell asleep, you'd have a nightmare where you were killed, right? These are like protection or neglect or betrayal or being cursed. There's sort of universal stories, and it says you're stuck in one of them, and it's one made up of one. It's not neglect and betrayal together. It's only going to be one of them, and I have to find out which one it is, okay? So we're going to now do a diagnostic and find out what they want you to work on. Is it what we would call a standard pattern in life-centered therapy in a standard form? Yes. Is it some other kind of pattern like a Jungian archetype? It says no. So it's something in our framework, and there are 3 categories in our framework, and I'm going to find out which one it is, and it's only going to be one of them, because if there's more than one of them, we're in trouble, okay? So is it what we call a single center pattern? It says it's not that. Is it what we call a major energetic pattern? It says it is that. So it should not be an identity pattern. Is it an identity pattern? It says no. And a major energetic pattern is just like what I was saying, like neglect. It's a core theme, and it does 3 things. And in your case, it's really doing one thing, but it's doing other things too. It makes you believe things that you know aren't true. Like if you say, I'm unworthy of love, or I'm unworthy of doing this project. And you say, wait a second, I know everybody's worthy of doing it, but I don't believe I am. So what you believe and what you know are not going to line up because of whatever this is. You won't let yourself feel some feeling and be a choice about expression. And there's going to be some kind of boundary trauma. So you don't get to choose what goes in and what comes out. Like your thoughts. You don't want your thoughts to be there, but they have like taken over and said, we're going to be here whether you like it or not. And you can't keep them away. So your boundaries aren't really, permeable. And it's all because of whatever this theme is. Now we have to find out what the theme is, okay? So is it in the material realms? It says yes. Is it in the non-material realms? It says no. So what that says is it is a standard kind of story you can experience through your five senses. It wouldn't be a story where, you know, a ghost is going to take you over at night that nobody else could see, and that's why you can't sleep. That would be non-material. So now I'm going to find out what it is, okay, that's got you not sleeping or got you anxious or something that has something to do with what happens when you fall asleep. There's some anxiety. Let's find out what is underneath it that they want you to work on, okay? And the other thing is, just so you'll know, it may be something you're not aware of because the manifestation that you're aware of is sleep. It's not like you're having a thought or an emotion. It's manifesting sort of somatically. So these things manifest in 5 ways: beliefs, feelings, body, which is boundaries or something physical that happens to you, relationships in the world, or relationships with the divine. And so we're going to find out what this is, but you may not be aware of it because your major symptom is going to be something that's like you're somaticizing something. It's not like, you know, the belief is there. All right. So I'm going to say a bunch of names. Don't worry about them. They're names like neglect or betrayal that are core themes that happen over and over and over again in myth. And it says one of these things is the thing we have to work on, and somehow it will help you with your sleep. Okay. So here we go. Split. So it's not that. When I get to the right answer, I'm going to go back. Split. No. Multiple. No. Neglect. No. Grudge. No. Death wish. Yes. Wounded. No. So we asked ourselves, is it a death wish? And is it not? So we just found out the thing we have to work on is something that's called a death wish. Okay. And do I do it through an induction? If you were here, I would have you say something, but you can say it to yourself. But I'm going to tell you what a death wish is, okay? I want you just to open to this and see if it resonates with you, even if it makes no sense. A death wish is the experience where you say, a part of me is experiencing, I want to die. Okay?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't, that's not a thought I have. Yeah. So it's a little, yeah, I would say, no, that's not at least conscious thought that I have.
Well, what we know is that there's 2 reasons that people feel like they want to die, and I'm going to explain them to you, okay? One of them is you wish you were dead, right? And if you wish you were dead, then you would probably have a suicidal thought or depression or something like that. Or you might get into a lot of accidents. Then you wouldn't be aware of it. Like I once had a person who had a death wish, and he said, I don't have a death wish. And he told me he got in 15 car accidents. I said, did it ever occur to you that like some part of you wants to die, even though what you're thinking is you're having a great time? So it can show up that way, but it can also show up somatically. So people might not be aware of it, but it can affect their sleep, or they could have some chronic fatigue, for example, right? But the other way that this works is that if I say past life, is that okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so
you want to just explain, maybe to give the audience just a quick explanation as we go along with that, though, because I don't know that's familiar to everybody.
All right, a past life, there's 2 ways. I mean, there's 2 ways to understand past lives, and I think there's much more likely this is going to be it for you. So let me explain to you why the second reason people have death wishes. They have traumatic deaths in what we call another lifetime, and they dissociate before they die, and then their body is killed and they're not in the body. A part of them isn't in the body. So if you know what dissociation means, it basically when something really bad happens and like you're getting beat up, suddenly you see the whole scene from above and you're against the wall watching it all happen. That's called dissociation or lost soul parts. Now let's suppose in some story when something horrific is happening and you know something horrific is going to happen and you say, I'm out of here because I got to keep myself safe. So I leave the body, right? And then somehow your body gets killed. You're kind of stuck, right? And so that aspect of you would say, I want to experience dying, or I want to die. And it would be saying, I want to die because it never got a chance to metabolize the death. It got stuck outside of the body, sort of like a ghost, you could say. And so if that's the case, you wouldn't consciously think you'd want to die, but you'd be playing out the story over and over and over again, trying to master it. Or you could say that aspect of you is trying to get you to die so it can experience dying, but that won't help it any, and it will make you fucking miserable. It will make you miserable because, I'm sorry I said that, but
you're fine. You're fine.
I don't know your audience, but it will make
they hear worse every day, I'm sure.
Well, so. But So what we know is there's two ways you can have a death wish. And my intuition is going to be more the second one, which calls it a past life. Now, if you don't believe in past lives, that's okay. We'll just say it's like an undreamed dream. So if you ever dream, for example, and someone gets horrifically killed in the dream, who created the dream? Has to be you. So in some way that has to represent some aspect of being that may need some work because somebody has this horrific death and you're experiencing, when you dream, it's very real. It's like, and you're sort of all the characters. So it'd be kind of like that. Or it's like a myth. I mean, who creates the myth? And we all have our own personal mythologies. The Greek myths, people created them and they're all killing each other and everything. Well, that's, you could say it's a projection of an inner experience onto an outer situation. So all we know is that some part of you is a big community. It's like we're all multiples, and some part of you is experiencing, I want to die. And one of the ways we know it's showing up is anxiety when you're going to sleep. That's it. So that could be anything, but probably because every time, everything that you're suffering about is a clue. So probably what happened is somebody is going to have something about going to sleep, probably, but we don't know. And like if they fell asleep, something terrible was going to happen. Or they fell asleep and something terrible did happen. And so you're playing out an echo of what happened to them as a clue to remember what happened, so it could be mastered by your soul, you could say. How's that? Can we live with that?
Yep, I can live with that.
Okay. So I'm going to now find out, because I'm going to muscle test again. So if I say a part of you wants to die and it says yes, so that's what we have to work on. And the only thing you're going to know is whatever that anxiety is that's coming up, and like something that's making you like not want to go to sleep, even though consciously you want to go to sleep, is some kind of clue about the narrative you're in. Okay. Literally a clue, right? Any of the thoughts you're having as you're going to sleep could be a clue. That it's not Matthew in 2020, it's somebody else, and you're just getting an echo of them, and you're kind of living out a trance of their life. Okay. That's if it's a past life, which, given what you just said, I'd be shocked if it was something in this lifetime, because you would then say, and even if it was something that terrible happened in this lifetime, sometimes that's even a reenactment of something that happened in either in your family tree, or if you believe in reincarnation, okay? So let's find out. So out of everything in the universe, the thing we need to work on most is this part of you that's experiencing, I want to die, that in some way is manifesting about not being able to sleep better, and whatever anxiety is, and this, the sleeping lightly or whatever that is. And it says yes. We have to find out any of the other ways it's showing up. And I don't have to find out. I mean, they may become clear because you're going to find out anyway. All right. And this is it out of everything. Is it worded exactly correctly? Do we have to refine it? We have 100% permission. And are we done with that part? So we now know out of everything in the universe, we're going to work on some, if you're a big community, someone in there is experiencing, I want to die. And one of the ways it's showing up is, you know, I'm not sleeping well, and whatever anxiety there is, or whatever light sleeping there is, or whatever there is going to be one way that it's showing up for you. Okay. So now we're going to find out a little bit more diagnostically. We're going to work on this directly. Yes. So that's, we don't need any more clues. So the next thing to do to find information about story, it says yes. So are we looking for one narrative and one point of origin? It says yes. Should we find out more? Should we find out what lifetime? It says yes. Does it originate in Matthew's lifetime? You see, I'm going to fall backwards. So it's nothing that happened to Matthew. So we now know you're not going to be the main character. Now there are two ways soul comes. You could say soul comes through blood and soul comes through energy. If you call it blood, it's in your family, you know, your bloodline. And if it's energy, it's like you reincarnated, and you could be anything. And sometimes it's both. So let's find out. Is it genealogical? No. Is it karmic? Yes. So that means it's not also a story about your great grandmother. Okay. But you could be anything in this story as long as you're not you and your bloodline. And you don't even have to be human. And if you're human, you don't have to be a man. I mean, there's no, it's like open to your imagination. Okay. Let's see if you need any more clues. Like the clues are, who was involved, what happened, when, where, why, how, or if you've run into the story. Those are the kinds of clues you get through muscle test. Do you need any of those? It says no. So the only clue you need, you know, I'm doing this educational part, is you're going to look for a story. It's going to take place in a past life, not in the future. And in this story, something probably probably a really bad death is going to happen to you. That's the clue you have that you're going to look for. And I'm going to tell you how you find it in a second. Okay. And somehow it's going to be about sleep in some very broad way. That's all we know so far. And we know you don't need any other clues from the muscle testing. Let's find out how to get there. There are only two ways people get to past lives. One is through hypnotic trance and one is through body sensation. In my experience, no one calls for hypnotic trance, but I'll ask for you and it's going to say no. So we're going to do it through a body sensation. So if you remember, this is true in soul also. When there's something that can't be handled, like a traumatic death, and this person is experiencing, I want to die or experience dying, there will be a sensation that will be associated with that and whatever it is about your sleep, okay? So we're going to get there through a sensation. Do we have to do anything to deepen or amplify the sensation? It says no. Any of the setup or transpersonal questions, it says no. What that says is you're holding a story. It's not that you're part of a group and you represent the group, or it's someone else's story and you're empathing it. In this story, it's going to be about you. That's it, okay? That's what the transpersonal questions say. If it was yes, then I'd have to find, then it's not just about you. Now let's find out. Are there any practices to find now? It says yes. One made up of one, yes. So this person needs something other than just sharing their story unless something changes between now and then. Do you find it no? Do I find it yes? Is it the standard practice you would use for someone who's experiencing I want to die? Yes. Is it anything else? So there's a standard thing you use for someone who's experiencing they want to die, typically because of a traumatic death. And it says that's what we're to do if you need it. I'll do a double check later. Now let's see if it's fully available. So we're going to shift now and say, whoever this is, are they fully available? That means you're in state. And it says yes. So here's what I'd like you to do, Matthew. I want you to close your eyes, okay? And what I want you to focus on the surface is whatever is going on around your sleep. So you're not sleeping the way you want to, and it's hard to get a really good night's sleep. There's anxiety, there's whatever, okay? We know on a deeper level that some member of the soul community you are is experiencing, I want to die, probably because of some kind of terrible death. Now, as you're allowing that, it says it's fully available to you, which means as you're fully allowing whoever this is, some sensation should become available to you. It might be an empty feeling or a pain or a numbness or a heaviness or a tightness or a queasiness. So all I want you to do is fully allow, I want to die, and whatever difficulty there is sleeping and anxiety, and scan your body and tell me what you notice. Any sensations at all?
I would say probably fear is the best one.
And fear, what's the sensation when you allow this fear? Is it heart beating fast? Is it tight throat? What does fear feel like as a sensation to you? Just describe it.
Yeah, kind of tight, right mid chest.
Great. Now, is that the predominant thing or is there anything else? You have the tight mid chest. Keep your attention down. If it helps, close your eyes because you want to keep focused in and down. You have tight mid chest. Anything else is you're just allowing, I want to die, and the anxiety or fear. Anything else, or is it really tight mid chest? You tell us.
Really tight mid chest.
Okay, so I want you to choose now. Keep your eyes closed. Your new name is going to be tight mid chest. You're going to choose to bring all your focus there, all your awareness so much. It's like you're going to become tight mid chest. That's your new name. And all we know is you're going to tell us some kind of story, probably about a death, because they wanted you to have that clue, and something about anxiety. So we're going to say tight mid chest. You teach us. What have you come to share with us about all of this? Where are you beginning and what's happening? Now, I want you just to be tight mid chest, and you might become someone who has some constriction around your chest, or something is making it tight, or images might come to you like a movie that you're seeing, or just a sense of, I know what's happening here. And all I want you to do, tight mid chest, you just report to us, just share whatever you're experiencing, whatever you're feeling, whatever you're imagining, whatever you've come to tell us about your story around this needing to complete a death. Just talk with us. And you tell us whatever comes, even if it makes no sense.
Yeah, it just really feels like pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the best way I can describe it, is no real visuals,
Mm-hmm.
but just a sense of pressure. And again, that sort of underlying, I don't even know if fear is the best word, but it's the best word I can describe.
Okay. So what we know is whoever you are, you're feeling fear or some underlying fear, and there's pressure in your chest, and just keep sharing like you're living out the story. You're just telling us from the inside out like you are pressure in chest. So there's some underlying fear and you're feeling this pressure, this tightness on chest. And what's next? Just keep sharing whatever's coming to you, what your story is.
Like it's hard to breathe.
That's right. That's right. And it's hard to breathe. And you're just remembering, stay with it.
Just kind of a helpless feeling.
That's right. That's right. There's pressure. It's getting harder and harder to breathe. You're feeling helpless, and it's
Uh,
exactly.
like my throat constricting.
That's right.
So hard to kind of speak.
That's right. Yeah, really strong. My throat's constricting. It's getting harder to speak. That's right. And
Yeah, almost suffocating.
that's right. Suffocating is right. That's exactly right. It muscle test really strong. And you're suffocating. Find out what's happening. You're doing great. You're suffocating. Stay with it.
Yeah, then it's yeah, just kind of it ends in some ways. Like it, yeah.
Yeah, it ends. Okay. Now just stay with it. See if there's anything else. You're feeling it's harder and harder to breathe. You feel helpless. Your throat's constricting. You know you're suffocating, and suddenly it's ended.
Hmm.
Anything else, just stay with it. You tell us. You did great. Just stay with it. Is there anything else?
Yeah, just more tightness
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all through, kind of from that mid chest all the way up,
Okay.
shoulders, neck.
Mm-hmm. All right, stay with it and just there's something more. So you're doing great. Just all your attention there, like you'll know what's going on. You're suffocating. Suddenly that ends, and now there's even more tightness. And
Some coughing.
that's right. That muscle test really strong. Yeah. And you're coughing. That's right.
Yeah, so sort of, I don't know, story popping in my head of some illness involved.
Yep. Yeah, that's really strong. There's some bad illness. That's right. Stay with it. You're coughing and you're sick. You're really ill. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's sort of movie in my head starts of what I best can describe as sort of a peasant village.
That's it. You're in the right place. It's really strong. Stay with your movie and just report it. There's a peasant village, and
Death is all around.
that's right. Yeah, that's really right. You got it. Death is all around, and
Like if I think I'm holding on to like the emotion of if I die, then I let down what's my family going to do? Like there's a lot of pressure to kind of stay alive.
that's right. Stay with that. You're thinking, if I die, what's my family going to do? And I'm feeling all this pressure. I have to stay alive, and
Boy, just awful death all around.
that's right. Awful death all around.
And I just can't get up. I can't, like whatever I'm supposed to be doing something. It seems like whatever keeps my family alive.
Yes.
And I feel a lot of pressure and anxiety to do it. And yet I just can't get up. I
That
can't move, basically.
that's right. You can't move. It's saying that's right. You can't move. You're desperate to get up and do whatever you need to do to keep your family alive, but you can't even get up. You can't move. That is muscle testing really strong. And what's next?
It seems like my family's both, worried about me, but also, I mean, there's no like, oh, it's going to be okay, go to the light kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
just absolute like trauma everywhere.
Yeah.
And death everywhere.
That's really strong. There's trauma and death everywhere, and it's not like, oh, be gone, we let you go and go to the light. There's
There's none of,
that's right.
yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to hold on to you because
Yeah.
they're in terror also.
Right.
That's right. And what's next? You'll know. You've got it. What's next?
Yeah. I think I die. I feel
Mhm.
like there's not, it kind of stops there.
Yeah,
Stops there for a while. I mean, it doesn't like, but yeah. The movie kind of stops in that place. Like,
yeah.
I'm looking for, hey, I get back up out of bed and I go till the field or whatever, but there's no, yeah, now it's like death.
Exactly. Now, I want you to notice something. I want you just to feel this. You didn't say I died. You said, I think I died. That's the key. You didn't know you had died. And the reason you didn't know you had died was you wanted to stay there so desperately for your family. And like it was so painful, both emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And part of you left before. That's why you say, I think I died. And it looks like the movie end, but you're not saying I knew it.
Mm-hmm.
So the death wasn't okay with you and you couldn't let it be. Okay. And that's probably why, in some part, you're having trouble sleeping now. Now, I'm going to check and see if we need anything more in the story. Is there any more story, including final thoughts, feelings, decisions, anything, unfinished business? No. Is there anything like that? No. So now you need to practice. All right. So you can close your eyes again. There's one more thing you need to do. There's nothing I muscle tested for you because we don't have that much time. So I normally would let you find this out for yourself, but I wanted to give you a chance here. It says there's no reason you need to stay. Your only problem is you got stuck. So
Mm-hmm.
you're still living out the story of like not wanting to die, which means not wanting to go to sleep, which is probably part of the reasons that you have such trouble going to sleep,
Yeah.
right? Now, here's what I want you to do. In our little language, in our world of trauma, you dissociated. That's why you said, I think I died. You didn't know for sure. So I'm going to invite you to do something. Now you know you died. So what I want you to do is invite all the parts back into the body. All you have to do is call them back. That's all it takes. It's like you're saying to them, it's okay, you can come back. And they will come back. And then what I want you to do is go right before the moment that you die. And this time, let yourself fully die while you're aware of it and just leave that body behind through the crown of your head. So you're just going to call all the parts back right before you die. Let yourself fully die so you're aware that you're fully dying and just leave through the crown of the head. Tell me when that's complete.
Okay.
Good. Visual. Now, oh, you're very visual. You want to be able to look up and imagine or see light. Tell me when you've got it.
Got it.
Good. All I want you to do then, because everyone will be taken care of, except we don't need that right now, but I'm just going to tell you because it's clear. All I want you to do is go to that light. You don't even need anyone to help. Just go to the light. And it's like you're going to let it embrace you so much that it's like you fold into it and become it. And when you become the light, just say out loud so I can muscle test it, I am the light.
I am the light.
That muscle test's really strong. Is there anything to find there? Do we have to make any more connections between that story and your lack of sleep or anything else? It says no. Let's find out if you balance the original intention. Balance the original intention 100% on all levels. It says yes. Should we check the level separately? It says no. Shall we check the intention out loud? It says no. Shall we check your field? It says yes. So here's how we're going to know if something changed. When you started, you had this really tight sensation across mid-chest and pressure, and you couldn't breathe, and constriction. Tell me what's happened with that. See if it's still there, if it's gone.
It's gone.
Good. You didn't take a muscle relaxant while we weren't looking.
Nope, not at all.
So it's gone. So that's how you know something's different. All right. Are there any lessons to learn? No, that's too bad. That would have been fun. Are there any other final questions to make sure you've got this and can live differently, including sleeping better? I asked like 12 questions to make sure you've really got it and can live differently out there. You don't need any of them. Is it fully affirmed? That means all parts of you are aligned with this. And we say deepest wisdom, highest guidance, guides, whatever it is for you, source. Anything more for this one's healing, transformation, and highest good, for the one in the story, and for all before we leave this work? It says no. So is the work on this complete? Yes, it says yes. And is it done? Is there anything else? So is our work complete for now? And we are done for now. Beautiful. Now take your time. That was really lovely. And really, I think you gave us all a gift. Now, all I'm going to ask you is take a moment, just be with yourself. And if there's anything you want to say about what touched you, or if you have any reflections or anything, what this experience was like, because you've never done it before, or how it felt to do it, floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sensory thing, you know, it was funny because I've had other sort of experiences like this in the past, and I didn't feel that. Usually I go there real quick with the visual piece of things. And, you know, it was interesting that I, for a moment there, I didn't know if it was, hey, we're doing this on a podcast to be broadcast to the world or what, but it didn't seem like initially that the movie kind of started playing. It took being, I think, more present with that sensation. You know, and then I was like, oh, I hope the movie plays. And then, you know, but it was a very genuine sort of, you know, not something I think about or have thought of. You know, there's always that thing. I think for me, I intellectualize things very quickly. So it's like, oh, okay, we're in the middle of a you know, then I start to get all like things, but it was very genuine in that piece. And yeah, very powerful too, because I think what I connected to when you said, like, you know, fear wasn't something I really equated with the sleep, but there's something that's interesting that when I try to nap, like on a Saturday, I don't have anything else to do. Like, I have nothing else to do. Everything's done. All I have to do if I want to is sleep for a couple hours and kind of catch up. And there's just that hesitation to let myself go, which has never made sense to me before. So, you know, this kind of narrative that popped up, you know, actually fits really well into one of the reasons. I think I go to sleep every night. So there's not that sort of, you know, I don't experience that in the same way as I do when I nap during the day, but I can see that being there and not letting go of something. And yeah, so feel great. And like I said, it makes more sense than, you know, I thought I did when we first came across kind of like the death wish and fear. Those things didn't really resonate with me intellectually, but you know, that, yeah, like I said, the story took me there. I didn't, yeah. It like turned on. Like, that's the best way I can describe it to the audience, is like you press play and the movie started. Yeah, that it was interesting. Just like, boom, there it is. So yeah.
Well, what I'd say to you is my guess is, because there are three ways that a story will come. One is kinesthetic, because you were telling us the story already, if you notice, it just wasn't a visual yet for you.
Yeah.
You said, I can't breathe. I'm having trouble breathing. I feel helpless. I'm getting more and more constricted. My throat is getting constricted. I'm suffocating, right? You don't have a movie yet, right? Then then you say something is ending, and now I can feel even more tightness, and I'm coughing, and now I get a sense of illness. And all of that is the story. You were living the story. Then you started to get at your more natural mode. I think life wanted you to see that you could really experience and know the story without going into your mind, which probably for you also is a little bit more of a dissociative process, is my guess. Whereas you were really getting it. They were saying, we're going to show you that you could actually experience what was happening to you and find the story that way, in a very visceral way.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say. The other thing I would say to you, of course, is why don't you just notice and assume nothing's going to change, and see if when you take your nap, suddenly you just let go, and then you can tell your audience, we'll assume nothing will change. And
I will. We've got a few in the quell right now, so I can give an audience an update in a week or so, and let it know how it does. Because I mean, I'm fascinated. I mean, that was a really powerful, experience. I'm the type of guy that can, like I said, I'm very much in my head about things. So to actually experience it, that's the kind of the universe knocking down some of those walls. So that was really powerful.
Yeah. Okay. Now take a moment, because we have a little bit of time left. And if there's anything more you want to share, or anything more you want to ask me, anything at all, we have each other now. And if there isn't, that's fine. And if there's anything you want to ask me just about the work, that's fine. You tell me, and I'll just say yes.
I feel good. I think if I could get a little bit step into my role, I think the question that a lot of listeners will have, because I think, it's an interesting thing, is I try to balance the scientific side of it, all this work, with this experiential piece of things. So I would imagine that some listeners of this could get very interested in doing some of their own work. So I know you are one person, but you've got a nice group of folks that are doing this. So I would just like to say, if folks are interested, in having this experience, because one of the other things that I don't know if skeptical is the right word, because I've seen folks do virtual stuff really, really well in a lot of different arenas. But this, in some ways, if we can have this over a podcast, I hope we demonstrate that it's available for folks, even if they are quarantining in this time that COVID's getting worse. So like it seems like this could be good for a lot of folks dealing with a lot of issues, but sort of how would somebody's interested in this, how would they get more information, connect to a clinician, so on and so forth?
There's two ways to do it. They should go to our website. It's called lifecenteredtherapy.com. And all of our practitioners are there. Our central team is there. There are 3 of us in the central team, but we have certified a lot of people. They will tell you whether they do it remotely. All of us who are in the central group do it remotely. And we have people who are also certified to teach this, and they all do it remotely. And then there are other practitioners that are all over, sort of many different places in this country, but that doesn't matter. And we actually have practitioners that aren't in this country, and they'll tell you if they do it remotely. I do everything remotely. It makes no difference. Just like you said, I mean, it's all the same thing. And then if people want to learn it for themselves, we have an online course where you can learn to do this. A lot of people, we used to call it guided self-healing. Now we call guided self-healing our trainings for people who just sort of say, I want to be able to do it for myself, for the people around me, but I don't want to do it professionally. We teach you how to do this for yourself. I mean, like, we teach you how to muscle test yourself, and then you could find all of this out yourself and drop into the sensation and do it yourself. So we have a training like that. So if you want to learn how to do it for yourself, or if you're professionally want to learn how to do it, we teach you how to do that in our online trainings. And if you want to work with one of us, just go to lifecenteredtherapy.com. You'll find us all, and you don't have to do it with me. I will tell you this, because it's kind of interesting. The framework, I think, is more powerful than the practitioner. Like, I had a 17-year-old girl come to one of our trainings about almost 20 years ago. And she came, her mother was the organizer of the training, and said, can my daughter come to our first weekend, and I say anyone with an open heart and an open mind who can read a protocol can come to the first weekend. So you start practicing. So she got hooked up with someone a lot like you, a woman who was in her 40s, who was a major healer, was a trauma therapist, had done everything. And the woman looked at me, because I muscle test who goes with who, and it said these two would be. And she looked at me and she like looked at me. You're going to send me off with her? Kind of a look like that. And I made it look like, yeah, I'm sending you off with her. She came back an hour and a half later and she said it was the deepest healing I ever had. And it's just because the girl could read the protocol. She said it wasn't hard to do. I could just follow the protocol and just like, and every question I asked here, the questions are in the protocol, and she could muscle test. And then and the reason it's so powerful is it's so immediate, because we're not working with Matthew. It's not like we're regressing Matthew. We're having Matthew find somebody who's a peasant in a plague, and suddenly you are the peasant, but you're also the one who's holding the peasant.
Yeah.
And I don't know. What can I tell
Beautiful
you?
stuff, my friend. Well, I want to thank you for this experience. I'll put a bunch of information I know we did on the first podcast, so I will also include that on this one as well at traumainformedlens.org. And postmodern non-locality. I would love to have a conversation about that at some point. So this is a great, I hope, budding friendship and intellectual collaboration, because I really enjoy you, and your work is incredibly powerful. I thank you so much for personally, but also sharing this with the audience as well.
Well, I mean, like, I feel the same way about you, Matthew. You're just a joy. I mean, like, you bubble over with exuberance and like everything. And I'm happy. I'll come back whenever you want me. And I will, because really we call this life-centered therapy because it's a whole way of understanding life, right?
Yeah.
Which includes postmodern physics and all kinds of things that are just really quite extraordinary as a sort of scientific philosophical framework that this is all based in. And I will happily, as the people around me will tell you, I will talk about this stuff forever. And if you want to have a conversation with me, it would be a great pleasure and joy. And I'm just saying already, I'm saying yes. All we have to do is find the time. I will come back, and then we can really talk and have a great time.
That sounds good. Thank you again. Again, you can find show notes at traumainformedlens.org. And just for my audience, I think this is like episode 125 where I haven't talked about quantum physics yet, so which is a big delaying of gratification of me. So I think I owe it to myself, maybe a holiday gift, to nerd out about quantum physics for an hour. So thank you so much, my friend. Take care. Thanks for the great work.
Baby. You know David Bohm?
Thank you.
You know David?
No.
David Bohm?
Oh, yes. Yep.
I'm going to say, if you want to know about the quantum physics, if you want to you read the holographic universe and read about Bohm and Pribram, and like,
that's the holographic universe is sort of my next rabbit hole. I've never liked the dark matter sort of theory, so I think the holographic universe kind of explains it away. But yeah, let's save that juicy stuff for the next episode. So thanks so much, my friend.
Thank you, Matthew. Bye-bye.
Bye.